Hi, I'm Davey.
I'm Carrie, and today we're talking about doing this video, and I wanted to share this song that I've written. Um, haven't technically titled it yet, but I the I was gonna say the last time we had church at our church, but we just had church at our church today, so that was pretty cool. But the last time before that was in March, March 15th. So it's been a while, but our pastor did a sermon about Jonah, and he did it from a really unique perspective a of from the sailors' perspective who were on the ship that Jonah went on as he was fleeing from doing what God told him to do. So he is on the ship and there's a storm, and his sermon, his analogy was from the perspective of the sailors, and that they did not want to throw Jonah off of the boat, even though he told them he's the reason why God created a storm. And he's like, you have to throw me off the boat so that you'll be saved, so that you can go on with your life without this storm going on. But they didn't want to. And so the the analogy is that we sometimes are those sailors, and God sends a storm to us to get our attention, to say, hey, you have a Jonah on your boat, some kind of sin in your life that you don't want to get rid of, that you don't want to, that you're just coddling. It's your little pet sin, and everybody is like, has their own. So you're hanging on to this too tightly. But you just need to throw Jonah off the boat, and and the storm would stop. So after that, I ran into Wayne Taylor, one of our deacons at church, and he kept thinking about that sermon. He's like, it was such a good sermon. I was like, yeah, I know, it was great. And he said, you should think about writing a song about that. I would, but I'm not sure that I could, but I think you could. And I kind of was like, oh yeah, sure, I'll write a song, because I don't guarantee that I can write a song about anything particular, but now I'm rambling. But I ended up writing a song about that, and yeah, I was gonna share it here. We coddle our sins, we hold them close. We stroke them again here in the dark. We hide it away and justify. And all the while the storms will rise. But we know if we just let Jonah go. Oh, we know the storms would cease. So throw Jonah from the boat. The waves will crash upon the bow. There's baggage to lose some way, somehow. But we'll tighten our grip on Jonah now. And all the while the storms will rise. But we know if we just let Jonah go. Oh, we know the storms would cease.
In 2 Timothy chapter 3, it says, This know also, that in the last days perilous times shall come. For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of God. Um, we hear that verse a lot, and when we hear that, it's our natural reaction to think about other people and look around at other people whenever we hear those words. And there's always somebody worse than we are. There's always somebody worse than we are to compare ourselves to. Um, we we might think of different groups of people, or might even think of somebody very specifically and think, yeah, that's how they are. They need to straighten up, right? And it's probably true. Um, but last week we talked about getting rid of idols any way necessary, and so I want to look at that verse a little bit differently than than that. I don't want to think about other people. I want to turn it around more on ourselves. So whenever you read verse 2 where it says, "For men shall be," and it goes on to talk about all the things, replace the word men with your name. So when I do that, it says, "For Davy shall be lovers of his own self, covetous, boaster, proud, a blasphemer," and all the other things. And it helps to remind me, as Christians, we are called to call out sin in the world, to say it like it is, and if it's sin, call it sin. But let's be honest and realize that we're not immune to sin. Don't read those verses and think they couldn't possibly be talking about you. Because verse 1 says, "In the last days perilous times shall come." So if we believe that we are in the last days, like a lot of people do, I do, whether we have another 5 years or 500 years, if we are in those last days, then we are the men that is lovers of their own selves. We are the men that are disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy. Um, I'm not saying that we need to be hard on ourselves or think of ourselves in some negative, overly depressing way, like we can't ever add up. But my point is, if we're gonna go look at the world like this, and if we're gonna judge the world and say, you guys, we ought to do that. For one, we are here to be the ones who say, this is right, this is wrong, this is sin. If it's sin, we need to call it sin, but we need to make sure we're looking at ourselves with these verses also. If it's sin in our life, a lot of times we call it sin when it's somebody else's sin, and we're proud to do that. But whenever it comes to our own, we want to sweep it away. We don't want to call it what it is when it's our own. And I just think it would be good to read those verses with that in mind, with ourselves in mind, with more of a reflection rather than looking around at other people and our neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the chapter, it talks about it talks about God's word specifically and what it's good for. But in an effort not to make this video go too long, we're probably going to make another video Wednesday. Maybe it'll be done uploading by Thursday. I don't know when. But we'll make it someday in midweek to talk about the last half of that verse. It's a little bit more hopeful, but it gives some good reasons why studying the Bible is good for you, and that's always good to know. So hopefully we will make that Wednesday or Thursday.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.